Hi, welcome to this episode of Thai Food. On this episode, I'm going to start making homemade roast beef lunch meat. So to get started, I've got a chunk of top round here that we pulled out of our freezer that we had vacuum sealed. I'm going to get this open. And what I did is I got sick of paying, $10, $12, $13 a pound for roast beef lunch meat. And I said, you know what? I'm quite sure I can make my own. So I did. It was a success. So now I'm going to share that with you. So we're going to get this top round out of here and give you an idea how much this weighs real quick here. Let me pick it back up and turn my scale on. I put the bowl on there already so it accounts for the bowl. So we got 5.5 pounds for meat right here. It's 5 pounds, 8.3 ounces. So 5.5 pounds is good enough for me. And that's what we got for a size roast. Wash my hands real quick here. Since I touched raw meat, I don't want to contaminate anything. Alright, grab my towel real quick. Alright, so we got that in the bowl. We know how much it weighs, not that it makes a difference. If I was doing bacon, I'd need to know how much it weighs because then I know how much curing salt to put in there. And the bowl itself was 8.5 ounces in case anybody cared. So we're going to set that off to the side here. And we're going to mix up one of my recipes of my chicken brine. And it's not just for chicken. You can brine just about anything you want. I brine my ribs in it, regular chicken thighs, chicken breasts, chicken wings. I've known to put my ribeye steak in it as well. But we want 8 cups of a good filtered water. There we are. And we're going to add to that 1/3 cup of sugar. Regular white granulated sugar. And I've done this recipe as its own separate video labeled chicken brine as well. We want some kosher salt for this. I'm going to do 1/3 cup of kosher salt as well. There we are. And let's get this dissolved in here real quick. Now, if you heat the water, it obviously will, dissolve a lot quicker. But then I gotta wait for the liquid to cool down at that point. So we're just gonna pause it briefly while I get this sugar and salt to dissolve, and we'll be back with you. Okay, so as you can see, this is starting to clear up. As soon as I put both of those in there, it went cloudy on me, and you couldn't see nothing down in there. But now now that it's cleared up, I can see it's all dissolved. So now we're going to add some soy sauce to this. And the reason I didn't want to add that before is I couldn't see if everything was dissolved if I did that. So we want 1/3 cup of soy sauce as well. And this is going to add some umami flavor in there as it penetrates into this meat and everything too. And it adds nice saltiness as well. Rinse the cup out a little bit with the brine. There we go, and we're done with that cup. And last but not least, Worcestershire sauce. You gotta say it wrong a few times, right? 1 tablespoon of the Worcestershire sauce. And that completes that recipe for the brine. Give this a quick stir here. And we're going to brine this in this, well, we're going to pour the brine onto the top round, which top round is also known as London broil in layman's terms. That's when you buy a London broil, that's what you're getting is top round. I was able to find a place when I was up in New York working. I happen to know of a spot back where I used to live, and I can get it by the big chunk, and it was probably about 10 or 11 pounds, and it was right around $5 a pound. So it was a pretty good price. So what I got here is not sponsored, but Tony Cashieri's injection marinade needle. When you buy one of their injection marinators, you get one of these with it. So we're going to go ahead and insert the needle. We're going to draw a syringe full of this brine. And I'm going to go ahead and inject this right into the center of this. In a couple spots. And what that's going to do is that's going to give it a fighting chance of getting into the center of this to flavor it. And then we're going to pour the rest of this over top. So that way there we're getting it from all angles as best as we can. And allowing it to soak this up. You can see it literally fills that whole bowl just about. I'm going to try to adjust this without making too much of a mess. I'm going to do fat side up, kind of, like so. Because I want it to go into the meat, and the fat itself, well, when I bake this off in the oven later, the fat's just going to kind of render off and get thin on top. So we won't have so much fat on top later on. Because I'm going to slow cook this to a nice medium. But that's all there is to it. I'll put a lid on this and let it brine for 2 days. You can do it on the counter. I've done that when the refrigerator space is, you know, short. But best bet is at least put it in the fridge for a couple days. You know, if you can find the space. But like I said, I have done it. I've done it in a 5-gallon bucket, you know, out in a cooler spot of the house. And it come out just fine. Don't recommend doing it. I definitely recommend you refrigerate this while you brine it for 2 days. And like I said, by injecting it like I did, it's going to give it a head start. And we'll catch up with you when we pull this out of the fridge to cook it. Alright, so it's been 2 days since we started soaking the roast beef. So we're going to pull it out of the container after we've removed it from the fridge here. Throw the cap in there. And I'm going to get it out of the brine here as gently as possible. You can see it's a lot darker in color than it was. Get it on these paper towels here. We're going to want to pat this dry as much as possible before we put our spice rub on this. We'll go ahead and get this bowl out of here. Dump that brine solution because I'm done with it now. Wash my hand real quick. Like I said, we want to pat this dry. It's going to still have moisture on the surface, and when we put the seasoning on it, there's some salt in the seasoning, and it's going to draw some moisture out of this still. But it's all about getting flavor to it. Alright. Put that right there. Go ahead and get rid of this paper towel. And wash my hands. With soap this time, of course. Now that I'm done touching the raw meat for the most part. So, what we're going to do after this is we're going to mix up a little seasoning for it. And at this point, you can season it however you choose to do it. I'm going to show you how I do it. But you can pretty much put whatever you want on this to season it. As long as you like the mix that it makes. But this is what I did. And it turned out pretty good. So I got some brown sugar here. I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of brown sugar and put it in my spice grinder here. There's that. And then I got some low sodium buck seasoning here. And we're going to do a tablespoon and a half of that. I want to reuse that one for this. So there's a tablespoon. and a half tablespoon. There we go. Set this off to the side now. I'm going to do some garlic. I'm going to do a tablespoon of garlic. I'm just putting it in the spice grinder because I'm just going to use that to mix this all up really quick, and it'll help break up the clumps from the brown sugar there, because it can tend to clump up on you. Half a tablespoon of granulated onion. I know it says taco seasoning, but I just needed a container to put the overflow granulated garlic in. Then we're going to do half a teaspoon of some black pepper. Don't want too much pepper in there. It gets spicy for some people. Not me, but, you know, I won't mention names. Half a teaspoon of some ground rosemary. This goes really good on this roast beef. And then we got some ground thyme. I'm going to do half a teaspoon of that. If I didn't say teaspoon on the last one, I meant half teaspoon. I think I said tablespoon. I don't remember right now. I'm trying to remember what I'm putting in this. Alright, so we got the rosemary, the thyme, garlic, onion, buck seasoning, black pepper, and some smoked paprika, because I'm not going to put this on a smoker. I'm going to roast this in the oven. I'd like a little smokiness to this, so half a teaspoon of smoked paprika goes in there. Put this cap on there, and we're going to give this a whirl. Just to get it mixed up. Looks like it could use a little more mixing. There we are. That should be good. Set that off to the side and scare the cat with the cord. He jumped pretty good there. We'll just, you can see it kind of powdered it a bit too, which will help with even coating. Alright, and we're done with that. And we're going to put it in a little shaker. This just happens to be a leftover one that says garlic powder on it. And you can see I had some other stuff in here. Looks like I may have had a little more smoked paprika when I made this one in there. But like I said, you can just mix up whatever you want in there and do it however you want. I'm just going to put this in here like so. Get them mixed together here. Make a little mess, but leave a little bit of space in there. Make sure the two are blended together before I shake this on my roast beef. And we're just going to use the shaker and disperse it on the roast beef. And you can see there's some driplets on this tray already from it coming out. So we're going to get all the little crevices and everything on this and give it a good liberal seasoning. What, you think you're getting some copper? I don't think so. You gotta have to fight Mama for this. He usually wins though. She feels bad for him or something. Copper's my cat, for those of y'all that don't know. Well, more like he claimed my son than me. Sesame's actually the one I rescued from the pound. He's a Blue Point Siamese. But we're going to give this a real good liberal coating, like I said. I'm not going to be shy. We're going to let this sit about 24 hours with the seasoning on this. You can let it soak into that meat a little bit before we roast it off. Yes, it's a little bit slow and sometimes tedious process for this, but believe me, it is worth it. The flavor is unmatched compared to what you get in the store. I'm even going to coat it on top here because as that fat melts down, the flavor will be in the fat and it'll baste it. Every little nook and cranny I can find to put this in. There's an opening, I'm shoving it in there as much as possible. Like I said, don't be shy because this will add a lot of flavor. You can see it just soaks up on the moisture on the outside of this as you do this. There we go. We're going to let this sit for about a day and then we'll roast it off. And I will check back in with you before I do that. Alright, so it's been 24 hours since we put the seasoning on. I want to take my temperature probe here for my oven and stick this down in because I don't want to overbake this. I want it to be at a medium. So we're going to take this, put it in our baking dish, just like so. I preheated the oven to 200 degrees, and I'm going to bake it until it hits a nice medium number. And here we go. Probably should have moved the grate up a little bit. Oh. There we go. You want to build, you want to bake it on the medium level here, middle of the oven. Alright, there we go. Plug this in. There we go. There we go. You're going to bake it until it gets about a medium. Now if you want it to rare, bake it till it's rare. If you want a medium well, bake it till it's medium well. It's your roast beef lunch meat. You do what you want. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch up with you after it's baked and cooled off. Okay. So we went ahead and pulled our roast beef out of the oven as soon as it got up to the temp that we desired for doneness, and let it cool off on the counter and then refrigerated it overnight. So now we got our final product here. I'm going to do a quick weight on it and see what we got to work with here. Oh, helps if I have it on the thing. There we go. So our end weight is 4 pounds, 14.9 ounces for the final weight on our roast beef here. So, 4 pounds, that's $20 worth of roast beef right here if you have to go buy in the store. So, money saving right there. I'm going to go ahead and slice some up here. And the leftover liquid here, you can obviously separate the fat from it and then save the juice there and use it for beef stock someplace, in a soup or something, whatever you decide. Or you could throw it out. It's your choice. Alrighty. Go ahead and make some slices here. Got to get it flattened out, of course. And there we are. You can see, got a beautiful center to it. Set them right there and make a couple more slices here. Got to try it, of course, right? Good flavor. tender too. Look at that. So that's what your end product's going to look like if you cooked it to about 150 degrees, which is a beautiful looking roast beef. And it's going to make excellent sandwiches for sure. So thanks for tuning in. Feel free to look me up on my Facebook group if you haven't done it yet, Thai Food. Also on Instagram and Twitter, and believe me, I will have a picture of this on there before you see this video. So thanks for tuning in and have a good one.